There we go. Oi, pessoal, tudo bom? Hoje a nossa mock class é sobre e-commerce e o professor Riccardo, da Instituto Politecnico de Milão, que é apenas uma das melhores universidades da Europa em business, vai ensinar para a gente um pouco algumas estratégias, como funciona, como é que não é. Então, essa aula é toda em inglês e é isso aí. So, Ricardo, please, it's your turn.
Okay, so thank you very much, Marina. So it is really a pleasure to be here for me tonight. And so my objective in the more or less 45 minutes that we have to spend together is, let's say, double. So first of all, I would like to quickly tell you something about our master program in e-commerce and sales management, and then I would like to give you a short masterclass on B2C e-commerce. So first of all, a very short introduction about myself. My name is Riccardo Mangiaracina, so I'm Italian. I have been working at Politecnico di Milano since 2003, more or less. And since then, I've been studying B2C e-commerce. I teach here in Politecnico di Milano logistics and supply chain management, and also digital business innovation. And digital business innovation and logistics meet each other, let's say, in the B2C e-commerce field. And so I've been conducting a research here in Milan through an activity that we call Osservatorio, so observatory on B2C e-commerce, that has been studying B2C e-commerce since 1999, so for more than 20 years, almost 25 years. And every year we talk with the most important B2C e-commerce merchants that are active in our country, but are also multinational companies like Amazon, like eBay, like Expedia, like Booking, like Airbnb, and so on and so forth. So huge B2C e-commerce players, or like Alibaba and AliExpress, that very likely is pretty diffused in our country as well. So what we are doing there is to explore B2C e-commerce from many different perspectives. Of course, we study the market of Italy, of Europe, and of, let's say, I would say worldwide. But we also study all the most important critical success factors of a B2C commerce initiative. So in a few words, the platform through which you can, let's say, do e-commerce, B2C e-commerce, but also the payment systems, but also the marketing strategies, but also logistics, as well as, let's say, omnichannel strategies, and so on and so forth. Then we thought that trying to, let's say, structure a master program in this field would have been very beneficial. So we are talking about a master program in e-commerce and sales management that we are gonna give here in Milan in English in a format which is full-time. So basically you can attend this master program all along during the day. The first intake that we're going to have is going to be in fall to 2022, so September, basically 2022. The length of the program is 12 months. And in order to attend this master program, you need at least a 3 years bachelor degree, or let's say the equivalent of 180 credits from, let's say, a recognized university. The tuition fee is the one reported there, so 18,500 euros and 18,500 euros. What is, let's say, very important is that we are addressing the topic that is really on the spot. What do I mean with on the spot? In the sense that we are talking about an industry, the one of B2C e-commerce, that has been growing really a lot. Also, let's say the pandemic and the COVID-19 emergency pushed B2C e-commerce significantly. And what we have seen is that many companies are looking for people to work in this field, both, let's say, .com pure players, so those companies that have been started their business in the internet era, as well as traditional players like manufacturers or retailers that are now trying to develop their B2C e-commerce initiatives. And there could be several, let's say, profiles that they are looking at. For example, the manager, the B2C e-commerce manager. So a manager that is gonna able to conduct the online activity, as well as the online store manager or the web marketing manager, or even experts, for example, in logistics. So what we are giving through this master program are all the most important competencies and skills that you need in order to have a comprehensive, let's say, understanding of a B2C commerce initiative, and potentially you can work in all the most important areas of a B2C commerce initiative. So through this master program, we are addressing hot topics like B2C commerce platforms. So you will be able at the very end to understand the main functionalities of a B2C commerce platform, and most of all, to choose the proper B2C commerce platform to be adopted by a merchant or by a traditional player to develop their online initiatives. And then also you will be able to understand the main difficulties in implementing these platforms, and then you will be able to make some recommendations about them. Then you will be able to manage the most important tools for digital marketing in the B2C commerce field, of course. Then you will be able to design a distribution network that will support the deliveries of B2C commerce parcels, as well as you will be able to understand the most important determinants of what is happening inside a warehouse, because, for example, logistics is a key critical success factor for B2C e-commerce initiative, the picking activities as well as the last mile delivery activities. And then you will be able to, let's say, manage all of them. Then you will be also able to design a proper customer journey, a customer journey that is going to be attractive for your consumers, because customer journey is a key in, let's say, improving the conversion rate, which is the ability of a website to transform a visit into an order. And then you will be also able to design omni-channel strategies in which a B2C commerce channel, a B2C commerce website is playing a key role in supporting also traditional channels. Having said that, let's start our lesson. We are going to talk about the main challenges of B2C commerce. But first, what is B2C commerce? So first of all, let me give you a short definition of B2C commerce, because with B2C commerce, we do mean the purchase or the sales of products and services that happens online to final consumers. So when I say purchase or sales, I mean that the order must happen online, then the payment could happen everywhere. Of products and services is pretty clear. I am including in the definition of B2C commerce not only products, but also services like touristic services or insurances and so on and so forth. Online, it means that you must realize them through a website in which you have a customer journey that will give you the possibility to put a product or a service in a cart. And then we are talking about sales made by, let's say, purchases made by consumers and not by companies. So B2C commerce is really very diffused. In 2021, if I consider just the product sectors, so those sectors like consumer electronics, fashion, food, books, and so on and so forth, it has increased by 17%, almost 20% if compared to 2020. And the value of B2C commerce in the world has overcome, let's say, 3,000 billion euros, so a significant value. And then the most important markets in the world, let's say, are United States, Europe, and China. And the most interesting data about these countries are the penetration rates. What is the penetration rate when talking about B2C e-commerce? So the penetration rate is the ratio between the value of B2C e-commerce over, let's say, the overall value of retail sales, online and offline. So the penetration gives us basically an idea about the diffusion of B2C commerce, the incidence of B2C commerce on our purchasing. So this penetration rate is, let's say, more than 20% in the US, more than 50% in Europe, and almost 30% in China. And these values are growing year after year. So we are talking about a phenomenon that is constantly, let's say, diffusing. So B2C commerce is growing. B2C commerce is hot, is appealing, is, let's say, a great success. But then what are the main challenges that a B2C commerce initiative has to face? In order to, let's say, answer this question, I would like to go through a kind of structured approach. So first, of course, the main objective of a B2C commerce initiative is to increase the turnover, so to increase the revenues. And what's the turnover for a B2C commerce website? Pretty easy. It is the number of orders times the average order value, the average ticket. Why am I following this structured approach? Because I want to identify now together with you very quickly the most important factors affecting the turnover. And then the number of orders is the number of visits times the conversion rate. The number of visits measure basically the capacity of a website, of a B2C commerce initiative to generate traffic. And so the higher the number of visits, the better the marketing activities carried out by that website are. And then the conversion rate instead measures the capacity to transform a visit into an order. So to convert a visit into an order. Because when, let's say, a visitor decides to buy, then he or she becomes a customer, and then there's a conversion. So at the very end, the turnover of the website is the number of visits times the conversion rate times the average ticket. These three are the most important factors. And they, let's say, determine the turnover. And we have to be very good at all of them because we are talking about the products. A times B times C. If one of these factors is 0, maybe you can be excellent in the other two, but the product at the very end is 0. So we must be excellent in all of them. So let's start from the number of visits, okay? How can we increase the number of visits? We can increase the number of visits starting from, let's say, the search engines, because our experience when, let's say, we are looking for a certain product starts in 90% of the cases from a search engine. Then what are the possibilities that we have in order to be well indexed on a search engine? So there are two possibilities. So the first one is the so-called search engine optimization. So our website has been optimized in order to be indexed, let's say, by, let's say, a website. So I'm in the online communication here. So if this is true, if I look for a certain product, I will appear in the first page of the search engine. So I'll be very likely, well, let's say, exposed to consumers, and then I'll click on the name of the website, and then I will land on a landing page there. Second, the other alternative that I have is the so-called search engine marketing. That means that I pay in order to be indexed by the search engine. And then in that case, I will appear at the very top. But then if I pay, the right question we should make is, what is the right amount of money I'm willing to pay in order to generate a visit? And the right amount of money that I have to pay to generate a visit is related to the expected value of one visit. But the expected value of one visit that I have on my website depends on the conversion rate, basically. Why? Because the expected value that I have for a visit is my capacity to convert, the conversion rate, times, let's say, the margin on the product that I have. But in order to determine this value, we must be able to forecast, to predict our conversion rate. And this is not easy at all, because in order to forecast and to predict our conversion rate, what we have to know is the data, the big data. So if we have big data from past experiences, we are able to forecast our conversion rate. If not, it's going to be hard. So who can better forecast its conversion rate? A very huge website with huge traffic that had a lot of data, or a smaller one? Of course, the big website with the huge amount of data. And so we have here the first evidence, for example, that in order to achieve success, the volumes, the scale counts. So the bigger the initiative, the better it is. And that's why, let's say, B2C commerce is a concentrated market. The same thing is true for the conversion rate. Let's assume that we are now on the website because we got the traffic, okay? And we know that getting the traffic using traditional channels like search engines is very expensive. And we have just seen that since you must be able to forecast correctly your conversion rate, you must be put in the condition to have huge data about your past history. So you have to be big. So it is a kind of red ocean in a certain sense. Now let's see what happens when you are on the website and then you want to buy. So what about the conversion rate? What are those factors that push you to buy when you are on, let's say, on a website? So you decide to buy when you find basically the right product, the product that you're looking for. So the wider the selection on a certain website, and then the higher the probability that you will buy. Second, when you buy the product you want at a low price, because of course we don't want to spend a lot of money. Third, when we are able to buy, for example, through a smooth journey on the website, a journey that happens without any issue, any trouble. So everything goes perfectly. So I have to put my data, I have to compile something with my data, I have to put my credit card number, and something has to be very smooth. And fourth, I will be happier if I can buy something that is going to be delivered quickly. For example, so service level is important as well. So if I receive what I ordered in a short period of time, I will have more probability to buy. So all these things basically affect the capacity of the website to, let's say, convert. But these factors depend on the volumes. So let's think about it. Just a second. Let's start from price. So price for sure depends on the volume, because if you are a big retailer and if you buy a lot of products, very likely you will get quantity discount. And if you have quantity discount at a certain point, you're going to be able to sell products at a lower price. And so you can be more competitive. So the size counts. The usability. So one of the best experience that you can offer to your customers with respect to usability is the so-called one-click checkout. So you see the product, you like it, just one tap or one click and you buy it. But this means that you have to manage the payment data of your customers, and this is not for everyone. You must get an authorization from the central bank, for example, and so you must be compliant with all the rules and all the conditions that are imposed by the government. But this is something that only the big players sometimes can do, not everyone. Or, for example, try to imagine huge retailers like Amazon. Okay, so Amazon has, I don't know how many people working on the development of the website. So they're spending their day basically understanding how they can improve, let's say, the journey on the website. Like, okay, what happens, for example, if I move the button buy now from, I'm just inventing, bottom left to the top right? Am I going to increase the conversion rate because in that position, it's going to be better for my customer? They A/B test. It means that at the beginning of the day, they start proposing both solutions. So 50% of the customers will see, let's say, the first option, bottom left. The other 50% will see the other option, top right. And then at the end of the day, they will decide which one is performing better. But all the merchants can do this? Of course not. Only if you're big, only if you have 100 developers working to improve your website. Because if you are just a retailer that very likely has outsourced its website to another company, and then you want to just make a small change, you must ask for a quotation. Then they will let you wait for 3 days in order to get the quotation. Then you have to think about the quotation, if the amount of money they're asking for is too much or not. And then maybe you will decide to make that little change. But I mean, you are competing with guys that go much faster, okay? And they can really change everything. Or another example in terms of usability. So let's assume we were talking about Chiara Ferragni before with Marina, okay? That you want, so fashion, that you want to buy a bag, okay? I'm talking to the girls now because it is an item both mainly by girls. If you want to buy a bag, do you prefer to see that bag taken or worn by a model, or just you want only the picture of the bag? What do you prefer? To see that bag in the hands of a model or just the bag?
Both.
Both?
The model with the bag.
The model with the bag.
Yes.
The model with the bag. Why the model with the bag?
Well, when you show the model with the bag, you, oh my God, I don't know how to say it in English, but you put the value of the bag, you know?
Yeah, and even more important is you understand how big the bag is, which is not that easy.
Yes. So João said that he rather see just the bag, but I believe it's because what you said, you know, like when you see just the bag, you can see the details, but when you take a picture with somebody famous using the bag, you are not selling just the bag. You're selling a concept and the style, status, right?
That's true. And if you want to communicate this, you have to make a shooting with the models. But is it cheap? Of course not, because if you must take a shooting for all the products that you're offering, it's going to be very expensive. So if you are a merchant selling bags or selling fashion apparel, and you have to take pictures of all the products tried on by models, it's a huge effort in terms of money, in terms of people, because you need the photographers, you need people elaborating the images. So I've been visiting studios of this activity many times, and it's amazing. So you should be really amazed if you see how many people are working behind the scenes there. So it's unbelievable. But you can do this only if you're big, only if you have the possibility to go there. Or again, in your customer experience and in your usability, what is another thing that plays a key role? If I have to buy something, I always go through reviews. So in order to understand if that product is good or not, I trust people who have already bought that product. But then if you want to have reviews, you must have a lot of people who bought those products beforehand. And then again, you must have, let's say, great volumes of consumers on your website. Then service. So service, one key point is, as we said, how responsive you are. So how quick you are in delivering. But then this is logistics, of course, and logistics is always a matter of scale or volumes, because the bigger the volumes, the higher your capacity to saturate trucks and transportation means, generally speaking. And then the more you can saturate the means quicker, the quicker you can be for the delivery, because you can be more efficient. Selection is huge online. So one of the main competitive factors of B2C e-commerce merchants is the wide selection, because we can find everything online, right? But then what's the issue if you have a huge selection? Of course, inventory. Why? Because online, Pareto's rule is not true anymore. Pareto's rule says that the 20% of your items generate the 80% of your turnover. This is true for traditional businesses. This is not true online, because online, what is true is exactly the opposite. The so-called long tail law, in the sense that the large majority of the turnover of players like Amazon, for example, is made through the sales of those products of which you sell just a limited number of units per year, 3-4 units, because you are satisfying a lot of niches, basically. So you can provide each customer with the product she or he wants. So your volumes, your sales are split among many different items. And so if you want to avoid a proliferation of inventory, you must be able to limit your safety stocks, that inventory that is there, in order to face the unpredictable demand. But how can you improve that? By predicting better. But how can you predict better? Again, through the big data, through the monitoring of the behavior of consumers. And how can you do that in the best way? Only if you can manage a lot of data of many different consumers, and you are able to cluster them depending on their habits, on their needs, on their behaviors. And so the bigger you are, the better it is. So again, also for the conversion rate, all the factors that we mentioned are affected by the volumes managed, handled by the merchants. So In other words, and then one more thing, and I finished with here, let's say the critical success factors. If I consider the average ticket, so the average order value, how can I increase the average order value? I can increase the average order value through the so-called cross and upselling. So for example, I buy a mobile, I don't know if you can see it, a mobile online, then a typical product which is related to my mobile, to the mobile, is the cover. So if I buy a mobile, they will propose me a cover. But how could they maximize the probability that I will buy the cover as well? If the cover is a cover that I like. So for example, if I have to sell a cover to a man over 40 years old, or to, let's say, a young woman, let's say 20 years old, very likely we want two different products. I would like a black or a transparent cover. 20 years old woman maybe wants a pink glitter covered. So how can you propose the right product? And just I'm making a stupid example, through artificial intelligence. But how does artificial intelligence work? In order to have artificial intelligence, so to have machines that are able to make the right decision, in this case, proposing the cover, they should have been educated, machine learning. But before, you need, again, big data. And so you need a lot of data to feed the algorithms. And then again, the bigger you are, the bigger the data, and the better it is. So in a nutshell, B2C e-commerce is a business where the size, the volumes managed counts, because the bigger you are, the better it is. And this is particularly true online. So we are facing a very concentrated business, a business in which the top merchants are performing for the majority of the market. Okay. But then there are many, let's say, challenges to be faced. One very important challenge in all the things I said is definitely logistics, because logistics affect a lot of different things. So for example, affect the service level, but affect also the traffic generation, because the better you are in let's say offering service level to your customers, the more inclined the customers are to get back to your website. The higher the service level, the higher the probability that you have a conversion, and so on and so forth. So let's say logistics is a key. Logistics is very important because you can affect the service level, you can affect the price, because the more efficient you are, the lower the price for the consumers. Delivery price is something that consumers pay a lot of attention to. Nobody wants to pay for the delivery cost. So the more efficient you are, the more you can put this value inside the price of the product, and then consumers are not aware that they are paying for the delivery. Okay. The more you can manage correctly your inventory, the bigger your product range, your selection can be. So logistics is really key in all these senses. And what are the main challenges in logistics? So first, warehousing. So logistic costs in the B2C commerce field are very important, because with respect to traditional business, we have to handle single pieces. So if in a traditional business, we handle full pallet loads, okay, in B2C commerce, we handle single pieces, because consumers order single piece. And then that single piece must be delivered at Riccardo's house. So the main issue is to reduce, in warehouse logistics, the main issue is to reduce, let's say, the picking cost. What are the alternatives that I have to reduce the picking cost? Automation, for example. And here I'm reporting the example of Ocado. Ocado is a .com pure player, so a B2c commerce merchant that started selling only on the internet, a poor player. And they are selling groceries, so food basically. And food is a sector in which the operating cost to prepare an order is huge. So for example, if a retailer, a traditional retailer, has to fulfill an order in a point of sale, for example, it requires more or less 20-25 minutes to prepare an order for a customer. But then the cost for preparing an order in that case is huge. So automation could be a key. And in this case, I reported the example of a system that is called Auto Store. And as you can see, there's a grid. In this grid, there are some white boxes, and then there are robots moving on the grids, taking the boxes in front of a picker who can pick exactly the products required by the customer. So basically the picking does not travel, stay still, and picks what the customer orders. Okay, this is a huge example, but what's the point here? It is very expensive. The investment is very expensive. The capital expenditure is very expensive. In order to do this, you need to spend a lot of money. And so you can start doing something like that only if you have a significant market. So for example, Ocado has built this warehouse, which is, trust me, huge, okay, just outside London. London is a city that in Europe has more or less 10 million people living there, okay? So with a very high density for the delivery, a very interesting market. Otherwise, it is impossible to justify this investment. Susie, correct. The main point of these solutions is maintenance, okay? So maintenance cost is significant. So what you need is to develop an expertise to manage these systems in order to reduce the maintenance cost that otherwise is going to play a key role, and unfortunately, a very bad role. Another example are the Kiva robots. Kiva robots have been adopted by Amazon. So in this case, let's say the robots carry the shelf and take it in front of the picker again. So basically they get rid of the traveling activity of the picker, but then it's very hard to automate the picking activity itself because, let's say, the items are very different one from each other, and so it's not that easy to automate it. So this system is very flexible. It can work also with a limited number of shelves. The system that I showed you before seems working only if you have huge warehouses. The main challenge here with the auto store system is to understand if it can be applied to smaller warehouses, because in the food and grocery industry, there is a model which is diffusing of the so-called dark stores. Dark stores are small warehouses from where the orders are fulfilled and delivered inside the city center. So there are some initiatives worldwide like Gorillas Get Here that prepare orders in just 10 minutes, and then you order and they deliver in 10 minutes. So I don't know if you know them. An example is Gorillas, or another example is Get Here, and they are really amazing in this sense, but they do everything manually at the moment, okay? Because it's not that easy to apply this automation to smaller system, but we are studying it. I didn't tell you that, but I founded a center that I call B2c Logistics Center, in which we study all this type of solution in order to be adopted by the merchants. And we are doing a lot of research on them. And this is one of the main points. Here I reported an example, which is an automated warehouse called Miniload. Yux is an Italian website in the fashion industry. Yux now has become international because they bought Net-a-Porter, so it's called Yux Net-a-Porter. It's one of the hugest merchants in the world selling apparel, and this is another example of automation. Another example of automation is about the packing. So also packing the items to be delivered is an activity that can be automated. And in this example, there's a machine that basically sizes the box based on the dimension of the product that has to be delivered, and everything happens in a very automated way. Now, the last few minutes, I wanted to tell you something about last mile delivery, which is very likely the hottest challenge in logistics, because everybody, all the merchants, are trying to reduce the cost of last mile delivery. Okay, and last mile delivery is important because it affects definitely efficiency, because it costs a lot. It affects effectiveness, because basically last mile delivery impacts definitely the service level perceived by the customers. So the promptness, first of all, and then the environmental sustainability, because last mile delivery has a strong impact also on the environment. And so the main players are working on all these dimensions when talking about last mile delivery. And there is one thing in the middle here impacting everything: the missed deliveries. Because when consumers are not at home, you are not efficient because you have to go back to them again. You are not effective because they are not happy. And you are not sustainable because you have to travel more before making delivery, so with more pollution. So basically, the missed delivery is a very, very important thing that all the merchants are trying to reduce. And then, what are the most important innovations in last mile deliveries? So there are now, let's say, I'm going to show you some innovative solutions, but some of them have been already adopted, like Parcel Lockers, for example, because they are now diffused, not that much, but diffused. And other options that I'm going to show you are instead at the very beginning. So Parcel Lockers are cabinets that are very interesting because you can collect what you order in a very automated way. So basically, you go there with your mobile, then you have a code. Through the code on your mobile, you can open the proper part of the cabinet, and then you can pick your product. It's very interesting because the express couriers or the merchants can deliver in the same place many parcels. So they can be more efficient because they don't have to do the routing. And so they deliver everything in one place. They can be even more sustainable for this reason. And consumers are happy because the process is under their control, for example. Okay, so it could be, as Susie is saying, even faster because they deliver everything there. So it is up to the customer to go there to pick it up. Then, of course, crowdsourcing. So using people in different time slots of the day in order to be more effective and efficient as well. Why? Because they're flexible. And so if there are more possibilities to avoid missed deliveries, for example, in a certain time slot of the day, after 5 p.m., for example, because everybody stopped working, and then almost everybody is at home, then I can concentrate the deliveries in that time slot. But I cannot do this with standard couriers because a standard courier works for 8 hours all along the day. Instead, if you go for crowdsourcing, you can concentrate the workforce in a more limited amount of time. Another funny thing here is the roam delivery. So basically delivery in the back of your car. And there are several tests that have been successfully conducted. One reported here is between DHL and Audi. So basically, modern cars can be opened using a digital key, and the back of the car can be opened using a one-shot digital key. So the express courier can open the back of your car using basically a digital code, and a code that can be used only once, and then they can deliver in the back of your car. So for example, if like me, you park your car for 12 hours in a day at a station, at a train station, and maybe there are many cars parked, this could be a very interesting point of delivery for the couriers, because if not only you, but also other people decide to adopt this delivery mode, it will be efficient, it will be sustainable, it will be effective, because it's a very nice element of service to receive what you order in the back of your car. Then drones, and drones, of course, can be used only in certain environments. They have some limitations, better, many limitations, but they are definitely interesting, and there are many players working on them. Then there is also in-home delivery. What does it mean? It means that you can receive the delivery inside your house, even though you are not at home. Again, because you can use a digital key to open the door at your house, and then maybe you can also have an asset there putting your grocery shopping in the fridge. And so again, in this case, you avoid the missed deliveries because you don't need to be at home when receiving the delivery. Then there are, let's say, robots. Everyone is testing robots now, and very interesting, we will see. Arina, I'm happy that you are enjoying these options, and we are studying all of them, and they are really very, very interesting. And robots are definitely efficient, because of course you don't need workforce to do deliveries, but then they have a lot of troubles, still have a lot of troubles. We are still far from adoption. Then we have dynamic pricing in order to increase the service level, and at the same time trying to increasing the delivery density. Why? Because, for example, if myself and Aline live not far from each other, and let's assume that I have ordered something from a merchant and I decide to receive it tomorrow morning from 8 to 10 a.m. And then maybe Aline is ordering something on the same website. Maybe Aline, you will see a lower price, a lower delivery cost if you decide to receive what you ordered in the same time window I decided, because since they have to come to visit my house, they can come also to deliver your order, and then they don't have to come later, and so they can increase the delivery density in this way. I don't know if I was clear, guys. Then another interesting example is the geolocalized delivery. So basically, you can receive the delivery at, everywhere you are, using the GPS in your mobile phone. Okay, and so in this case, there's a delivery performed by Zalando. Zalando is a huge fashion, let's say, B2c e-commerce merchant. Then, of course, we are seeing the adoption of electric vehicles, and a lot of, let's say, couriers have started doing that. Then they are starting also very naughty packaging. In this case, this packaging can be eaten, so impact zero. Or last point here is something which is a bit complex. It is called VRPAP. What does it stand for? VRPAP stands for Vehicle Routing Problem with Availability Profile. What does it mean? Let's assume that you decided to have an home assistant like Alexa, like Google Home or whatever. So it is a mic always open. And let's imagine that we can build a profile of your presence at home. So from 8 to 9 a.m., I have 90% probability to find you at home. From 9 to 10, 50%, and so on and so forth. Imagine to build this profile for the different time slots of the day for the 7 days in a week. And imagine to keep this profile updated. You can also use a mobile to do this, okay? Not necessarily an home assistant. And in this case, imagine to combine this information with the routing of the courier that has to come to deliver the products to your house. In these ways, you can maximize the number of successful deliveries, minimizing the missed ones. So increasing, for example, the service level, okay? This is not adopted yet, but this is a solution we have worked on for a long time, and it provides very interesting results. So I would stop here. I really thank you for listening to me for almost 1 hour. I hope I gave you, despite short, an interesting picture of B2C e-commerce and of the main, let's say, challenges that we are facing there. And of course, if you have questions, I'm here.
I just noticed that computers and artificial intelligence and more efficient programming, I think, is on the verge of being the solution, right?
Sorry, I missed you.
I'm saying that it seems that computer programming, artificial intelligence, and things like this are at the top of the next research, right?
Yeah, definitely, Susie, definitely. So artificial intelligence is, in my opinion, very likely the most promising digital wave that we are facing at the moment. And it has impact on many different areas. And in B2C e-commerce, it has definitely a strong impact. The most evident impact in B2C e-commerce is about recommended products. So every time you visit the website, there are some products that are recommended to you. So depending on your past behavior, depending on the behavior of consumers that are similar to you, and so on and so forth. And there are machines making these decisions about the products that they have to show you at any time. Very happy that, Aline, you appreciate.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, does anyone have any other question? Well, so I believe we can go right now. Thank you so much, everyone.
So thank you from my side as well. It has been really a pleasure. I hope I, let's say, succeeded in giving you some interesting, let's say, elements about B2C e-commerce, and maybe now you are a little bit more curious. I really hope that. And thank you, and bye-bye. Have a great day.